Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Marie.
And this is Mock It, a podcast from MetroStar, where we take a deep dive look into UX design, trending design topics, and making our world transform the government. Let's get started. So for today's topic, we're going to talk about those big tech events and how we as UX people sunset tech.
Yeah, so fun fact, both Liz and I are Android phone users, but we use Mac computers, and then I have an iPad with design. So
we have a Samsung tablet, but my wife Erin is looking to getting an iPad as well for work. So
love it.
Yeah, I love that we split among the big tech companies with our preferences and our technology use. So for how we translate in this in work, how do you think that we use technology when different technology sunsets with our design practices, and then also with, especially for what we do with a lot of website management, using development in these new tech changes?
Yeah, so we've had two big ones. One is still to come, IE will finally be gone. And then we've also worked through the iPhone 5. So the very small dimensions for our responsive design. I think lots of designers and developers are all breathing like big sighs of like, nice, we don't have to worry about it. So how we sunset them. Do you want to talk about it? All of our forewarning.
Yeah, so I love that you brought up IE, Internet Explorer, for those that don't know the shorthand that we've been using. But as we've mentioned, we work with a lot of government customers, and a lot of the government does still use Internet Explorer. And so one of the big things that's happening with Internet Explorer is the technology of the browser itself is sunsetting. And it has been sunsetting for a long time, but every 6 months or so, it gets pushed back another 6 months. So what we've been doing to try and mitigate the any backlash of our users having any issue is when we do release notes, we always do a little note that says, this is their preferred browsers, and then browsers that we kind of warn not to use and not use as much. And with IE, we always say the reason we give IE as the example as not a preferred browser is because it's sunsetting and the technology just isn't there to keep up with some of the responsive design and things like that Marie does as a designer, and then our dev team does as the developers.
Right, in the code. And then we have also, especially for our big launch in August that we went through, we are in sync with our clients' IT support department. So we have validated that those are their preferred browsers, and that they are as well also sunsetting even their IT support. So staying in sync, across your agency that you're supporting.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's definitely something that these are things that happen behind the scenes that as an end user, even on just like a normal website, even if you're using Google or something like that, you don't think of that. You just see the user interface and you're like, oh, this works. I just typed in my question into this bar. But you don't think of it as how it looks on Chrome versus Safari versus IE versus another browser that might be part of your laptop package. So that's definitely a really great point. And then from a design standpoint, how do you feel about different changes like the iPhone 5 with responsive design, and then really having to think of like a tablet screen versus a desktop screen, laptop screen versus a phone screen? How does that affect you?
So it's always changing, right? It's nice to be getting rid of the smallest size because that one, iPhone 5, was always the hardest. And it's where we definitely were like, well, is this really what a mobile user needs if the space is so small? Because you can't do everything in one spot. But other, like that new flip phone, I haven't seen really much of anything yet about like, how does that work? Like, because that's an even smaller screen from lengthwise. So we'll have to consider that for new tech and new devices that we'll be designing for. I don't know how much like government folks will have that phone necessarily right off the bat, so it is nice to have some time to consider and see, how commercial agencies have to deal with it, since they're usually a little bit earlier to the base on tech. And and adapting, but so that's pretty cool. And then IE has also been one that when we do design for it, it either loses some functionality, like what other people call like the snazzy things, but that, right, just because it couldn't hold it. Edge seems to be very comparable to Chrome and Safari, so that's been an easy consideration that we're not putting in special classes, or not we, I don't have to do it, but the dev team and talking with them, they're not having to put in special classes or, more code to handle what a browser can and can't do. So it's helped streamline the code, which makes for a better product and a safer product.
Yeah, and then I think one example we have on our team, just like between you and I, is Marie and I have the same work laptop, we have a MacBook Pro, I believe. And
whatever the largest size is for design.
So exact same year, exact same specs, but when we do screen share, my normal setting on my browser is way more zoomed in than on your browser. Yeah. Just as like a normal setting, I don't do anything special with it. And even if I do like Control-0 to get the zoom, just like a normal like
Yeah,
0.
I remember that time. We were like, what? How is it so much closer than mine?
Yeah, so even, I feel like that's something that people also have, like even if you're on the same technology, people's individual settings are different, even if they don't change anything, or, they do change stuff and they have different accessibility needs that they are, they're zoomed in or they're zoomed out for whatever reasons may be, but that's also something that we try and account for with the responsive design.
Yeah. Yeah, we do account for that. And that made me think of when we do the user acceptance testing. So Liz, when we do user acceptance testing, usually it's you send out a link and your users will go and test it based on the criteria, and which we'll send, usually you send all of that, they're in sync with you and they know what you do. For our client, we have a really good relationship. We just end up screen sharing and having conversation with them for an hour. But right now Liz is also screen sharing her computer, so she's having to zoom in, right? And we have to discuss, right, because they're looking to make sure it looks correct as well as it's functioning correctly. Like I'm zoomed in at 150%. Like let's zoom out first before we make an opinion, and then go through it.
Yeah, that's so true, and we say that at every user acceptance testing meeting that we hold, because there might be new people who are not as familiar with our day-to-day clients that we work with. So for that, we have to be like, I know it looks ginormous on my screen. On your screen, it might look different, and these are the reasons why. So that's just like another way that we kind of build that trust and that communication for, one, letting people know that we are on top of the technology and how it might affect their screens, and then also, just for user acceptance testing, if people see something like very large on my screen, but on their screen it looks perfectly fine, we don't say that little caveat, people could say that's an issue, which I mean, as they should, if they didn't know, like it's not consistent. So yeah, that's definitely a great reminder of ways that we kind of build in that trust building and that like sense of security that we're communicating that information.
Hey coders, creatives, strategists, and everything in between. We hope you're enjoying this episode of Mock It. Are you interested in making your mark in the industry? We're hiring for all types of roles across the nation. Visit metrostar.com/join us to check out our open roles today.
So when we work with our tech team, our development team, we definitely, I feel we work pretty hand in hand with them, especially about Internet Explorer, because our lead developer, he's on top of when it's gonna sunset, and if it gets pushed back, he lets us know. But I think that just speaks to how UX and dev really work so closely together.
Yeah, and then also going back to like new tech, so chatbots or like video trainings aren't necessarily new technology, but they're new tech to our client right now. I think, and how we've been handling it is we've had a lot of check-ins with our development team, with everyone, to continue to say like, what are we doing? This is the goal. Like, we've decided to go this way. So in the process of bringing in new tech, which isn't always necessarily the new phone sizes or whatnot, but just new technology to our government customers. As a team, we've been really close. Do you want to speak about the artifact that you've had for our new video training platform to help the team stay synced? You mentioned it yesterday in Stand Up.
Yeah, so I think that I'll help I can talk about the right thing. Yeah, so as Marie mentioned, we are building in some new technology to our client which will be sort of a video repository of educational resources, and through that, one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we have sort of a baseline. So if someone joins our project, or if we need to share something out with the client, we can have something that's ready to go. It's a PowerPoint presentation of just what this new feature is going to be, why we're doing it, how it's going to help the customers, how it's going to help our client in general, just reach different customers. And it has a dual purpose because one, we're using it for external purposes of we have something ready to go if we need to reference anything as client questions come up. But then internally, we have this document that we can use to sort of track changes, including tech changes if something happens with, as we're building in these video features, there are different ways that you can do that. You can embed something from YouTube. You can create your own player. We have Drupal as our content management system, so that has some built-in functionality if we're to go that route.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that would definitely be new technology, certainly to me as well. And so that's a great example of another way we have to work with our tech team and our devs, because they're really the ones who are helping us through helping us make this come to life.
Yeah.
We can talk we can do a lot of UX research and come to them with a really solid plan, but it's that relationship between UX and dev that really makes things come to life. And so having these types of artifacts and really working hand in hand on the different technologies that you could use, that's a really great thing to bring up. And hopefully our clients will find that as helpful as I know internally. I think it's going to be super helpful just because it keeps everyone aligned.
Yeah, and I just put Liz on the spot because I know she had that artifact. So she's leading the charge on that video repository of new tech to our client and their customers. And then I am working with the team on the chatbot technology and our meeting to discuss which way we are going about it, what Google product we might be using, or do we just build our own homegrown, which another team has done before. Our meeting got pushed back to Thursday this week. So we'll be doing the DAR analysis. And can you help me with those?
Yeah, it's decision. I want to say it's a decision analysis report. I
think that's right.
Okay.
I wasn't sure about the A.
Yeah. I love DAR.
Yeah. So that we'll be going through an exercise where, I know there was at least 2 technologies talked about when the meeting came up that we needed to have it. Or I guess it was questioned if what we were using was the appropriate. So the team knows that they're going to come back with, if there's other technologies, this is where Dev really helps us make it come to life. So we go through, you set criteria up of what's most important to you out of that technology to set up for success. And then we'll just go and evaluate the 2 or 3 options, maybe 4. Who knows on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm excited you guys are doing that. I think that if anyone, I wasn't aware of this DAR analysis until actually when we went into quarantine. We worked with one of our PMs on different remote tools that we could use to complete our UX research that we were literally in the middle of when everything shut down. So that was the first time I used it, and it's like a weighted criteria system. So if budget is your number 1 criteria, that would have a weighted score of whatever. It would be the highest weighted.
I forget the specific numbers because it's all in that Excel.
Yeah, and I'm positive that you'll be, if you want to Google DAR, you should be able to get a template right off the bat, and you can fill in what your specific criteria is. And I'm you can use it for real life. It's a really
You're about to like nerd out on it.
So that's really cool you guys are doing that. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the chatbot. I feel like that's like super fun technology and like I know a lot of people have different chatbot bots in general of like, you know, different industries and stuff like that, but I don't know, I think it's like a cool technology that's definitely like I don't know, I think it's cutting edge in some ways because especially on government sites.
Yeah, I'm nerding out about the whole conversational UX aspect of it. You know, because we're imitating you talking to a human, even though it's not, right? It's all programmed in. So it's been kind of cool to dissect like yourself and like, right? If I was like talking to help desk or we've been going through some like scenarios to work on the decision trees, and like the wording that you would use is very different than the wording you use in an application or a website page.
Yeah, and one thing I'm excited about for specifically for the chatbot is in regards to the language. So like sometimes when you go on a website and they have a chatbot, like you can automatically tell that it's like I'm talking to this like virtual assistant or you know whatever it is. I think it's really cool that you're taking into consideration that conversational UX, and then even though users will most likely know that they're talking to a bot, it's I don't know, there's like this like you're gapping this bridge in a really cool way. So if you need a tester, I will. I'm excited to test it. I think that'll be super fun that you guys are working on that.
Sure, the whole team will be asked to test out our flows, right? Because then there's just that question of we're like a handful of folks dedicated to that, but so many brains can only think of so many possibilities. So it's good to extend it out. You know, get like when you go through it, did it make sense? Or did you end up at a question where you're like, well, it doesn't have the option that I was expecting to answer for this question? Because that's been the cool part about the conversational UX is how do we continue the question and then also kind of predict like the answers or their next response so that it feels natural, right? There's a sense of trust because it isn't. I don't know if you've ever been in any of those annoying loops of chatbots.
Yes.
Because you never really actually got to the question or answer of the topic you were looking for, and you just keep going and going. So we want to not do that.
Oh, yeah, I find that very frustrating because then I'm like, representative, like.
It's like when you're on the phone, like the audio is basically like the audio version of chatbot, and you're like, 0, representative. What's the key word to get to the human?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, like, sometimes I like, I'm on those chats after hours, which is like, totally reasonable, and, like, that's why you have, like, the virtual assistant or whatever. But then I'm like, then it's like, send your email to this, and I'm like,
could you just can we just switch to that when it's after hours?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
That's a good thing though to consider and think about that one.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, it's not like, yeah, that might be something. And then, especially because we do have our client has a large support team, and it is specific hours, and there are extended hours during different seasons of just like the cycle of work. So it is, how do you...
Yeah, how would we, to make it not a frustrating experience. Where do we turn that on?
Yeah, I'll see. You know,
good ideas, yeah.
But I think this is just like the power of like discussing, like nerding out on fun things. It's like, new technology and stuff like that. We can like get into the like the nitty gritty that, you know, just like comes out organically, and it's not in a... Like, we're just chit-chatting. It's not in, like, a formal setting at all.
And, like, I can't wait to go tell our team about this idea. Because we've talked about how do we get, like, if I'm having a conversation, how do we send that log of the conversation to the customer support representative if I've gotten to a point that I need to talk to them? So that's been something. But, what about when there just isn't one, right? Because it's 8 o'clock at night, but I've got to get my... thing out, you know, and I need help to do it.
Yeah, and then it's also what happens if it's like a half chat, like someone like accidentally put like H in it, or like, you know, like they just clicked on it by accident or something like that. So then how do you route those without overwhelming the support system?
Well, I think if they're not, because we have at the top of ours just you can always call a number or always email.
Nice.
If we're also just collecting that data, so if someone just like types in a word or a letter, but then say they also go off to another website, you know, you get distracted, go do another thing, we'll just, you know, we'll have to look at, you know, what those patterns are when those happen, but I don't think they're all going to be sent right off the bat. Or maybe somehow there can be a script that dev writes to take those out.
Yeah, and I think I definitely am one of those people that like have like a bunch of tabs open, and
Yes,
like I am like Verizon has chat, and like you have to use to get to like a real person, you have to go through their virtual assistant.
It's
So
annoying.
yeah, so but I'm always the person that like walks away, or like I'll like start on my phone, and then it's like a weird UI on your phone because you have to keep it open, but then like sometimes I'm like I hit the home screen, or like I like go off of it somehow. So I'm definitely the person who like walks away, and then until like the notification beeps like 5 times, like oh right,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like talking to this person about whatever.
So funny. I feel like I have the multiple tabs and then also multiple windows with multiple tabs that there just becomes a point where I'm like, X. Let's start this all over again.
Yeah, I definitely like Friday afternoons I have to do that
Just
because
close it.
like or like Monday morning I like come, if I don't do that I'm like, oh my god, what was I even working on?
Yeah, yeah.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of Mock It. Are you interested in learning why every government agency should update to Drupal 9? A link to our blog is in our bio, or you can visit blog.metrostar.com/upgrade Drupal 9.
Do we have tips for taking changes in stride?
Yeah, I would say just looking up articles on it. There's right in this world, there's a lot of virtual events, or other people like recording about, what they see out there, where they think it's trending. So yeah, just like going and gathering information and then talking with your team, I think is the best way to, continue the conversation, get different perspectives and ideas to think of. That would be my tip.
Yeah, I think my tip would be look for different conferences. I know that we get a lot of emails for instance like Drupal GovCon,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and they announce a lot of different technologies there. And even if I know that when you hear that you're like Drupal, oh, that's like a development tool. Like I don't fit into that as like a PM, a project manager, a user experience designer, a X, Y, and Z. Like it's only for dev or development people. That's not the case. Really take advantage of some of those free conferences that they've really done like a wide breadth of different sessions that you can attend for free, and then some of those will you can get like a little inside track into different technologies that are coming out, as well as technologies that are sunsetting. So then you
Great.
you can come back to your team and talk about those, and really and we've mentioned this throughout, really working with your dev team, because that's different teams have their breads and butters that they're subject matter experts on whatever they are on that, and working with your team and really highlighting their skill set to like bring that knowledge back to the team.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is Mock It. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And join us next time. As always, if you're interested in learning more about how government and tech collide, visit metrostar.com and follow us on socials.